Originally, the capital of OTK company was 672 billion KRW. After investing 70 billion KRW to establish a subsidiary company, K Company in Korea, the remaining capital was 602 billion KRW. When I first ventured into startup investments, I was worried about whether I could invest such a large amount of money. However, that concern was just a passing fear. With each investment contract signed, the balance in my account rapidly decreased. Money, though hard to earn, is easy to spend. Investing tens of billions at once dulled my sense of money. If someone asked for $5 million, I would think, isn't that too little? To run a proper business, you need at least $10 million. When did my scale grow so large? At the point when a meeting was scheduled, the investment was almost a certainty. The reason for still going ahead with the meeting was not to decide whether to invest but to meet in person, have discussions and fine-tune the details. The two most important details at these meetings are ownership and management. Finance, no matter how well packaged with fancy words, essentially revolves around playing with money to make more money. Therefore, calling this field a gathering place for swindlers would not be an exaggeration. Some set up plausible companies to attract investors and siphon off the investment funds, while others approach seemingly healthy companies, strip away the technology and patents, or even take over the entire company. Hence, the aspect that startup founders seeking investment are most worried about is ownership rights. Most of the founders I met possessed an entrepreneurial mindset rather than a mere business mindset. They wanted to succeed in their products or services in the market beyond just making a lot of money. So, while they were willing to make investments, they preferred not to meddle in the management. I gladly gave them the answer they wanted to hear. I will invest, but I will not interfere in the management. Having yielded management rights, only deciding on how much stake to secure led to the rapid determination of other details. We signed an investment agreement with each other, and those who found investors in distant lands of Korea returned to their homeland joyfully. The entrepreneurs I met this time were a young East Asian man and a black woman. Peter Kitsuyo, a Japanese-British man, and Janelle Jackson, a Jamaican-British woman. Peter was originally an architect and Janelle was a computer scientist. ARKit aims to use artificial intelligence for architectural design. The following explanation went on. Architecture is both an art and an engineering discipline. Buildings are not only a piece of art that makes up a city but also spaces where people live their lives. Therefore, architecture falls within the domain of professionally educated architects. However, we aim to challenge this field by incorporating IT skills. Janelle projected designs and drawings directly created by ARK, an AI for architecture. Currently, we are at the level of designing simple 1- to 2-story buildings. But ARK is continually evolving through machine learning. Taikyu asked me in amazement, what is machine learning? Exactly what it sounds like, machines learning. Does artificial intelligence learn as well? Artificial intelligence is a machine that substitutes for human thinking. It may sound grand, but computers represent that best. While computers can handle complex calculations effortlessly, they struggle to differentiate a dog from a cat. The reason is the lack of an algorithm to classify them. What criteria separate dogs from cats? Dogs look like dogs and cats look like cats? Yet dogs and cats come in various shapes and sizes. How can one determine which is a dog and which is a cat? Humans find it very easy. Even if you put a cat that looks like a dog in front of them, they can quickly distinguish between them. It is the result of a learned experience in life. We have seen thousands of dogs and thousands of cats directly or through various media. Accumulated information forms a rule in our minds, and we automatically distinguish between dogs and cats according to that rule. So, can machines be taught to learn like humans? If we pre-train them to recognize thousands of pictures of dogs, they could form rules to distinguish whether an animal shown is a dog or not. Still in the early stages, but by continually exposing ARK to blueprints and designs, we aim to make it capable of handling more complex architectural designs in the future. The introduction of machines into production sites marked the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Through the second and third industrial revolutions, machines evolved. However, they did not just replace human manual labor. Creative and proactive tasks remained distinctly human. That's an old story now. Now, artificial intelligence is even surpassing humans in the field of design. Is this the trend of industries? Taikyu asked Hyunju Nuna. In your opinion? It's more than fine. great items, great vision. Having met several companies envisioning unprecedented ventures, notably Faceit, the idea of AI doing architectural design seems quite rational. As I skimmed through the proposal, I pondered. South Korea's construction capabilities are world-class. Iconic landmarks like Malaysia's Petronas Twin Towers or Singapore's Marina Bay Sands were constructed by Korean companies. However, there is still a gap in the design aspect. Not long ago, even the completed super-tall building Lee Tata Tower had its construction done by Lit Construction, but design and supervision were all handled by American, Japanese, and German firms, etc. This was because there were no domestic firms with such design capabilities. I asked Peter, "Is it possible for AI to design super-tall buildings?" Peter confidently replied, "Of course. Technology advancement has no end after all." I nodded and said to Hyunjinuna, "Let's invest." Hyunjinuna said to both of them, "We will invest in Archit." The next meeting is at 7 p.m. Hyunjinuna stepped outside the hotel for a moment to smoke a cigarette. Ellie asked me, "I'm going to play squash, want to come along?" I quickly shook my head. "Oh no. I have a bit of a sore throat from not sleeping well last night." Ellie looked concerned. "Are you okay?" "Yes. I just need to rest a bit, I think." In reality, my body was fine. However, I used this excuse because a few days ago, I almost vomited after following along for only 30 minutes. I never felt the limits of my stamina even during military training, but I was about to experience them at the hotel squash court. "Let's go together next time then." "Yes. Squash doesn't seem to suit me very well." Ellie went to exercise, leaving only me and Taekyu. Despite struggling to understand English, he faithfully attended the meeting. He wanted to know where his money was going. This guy surprisingly had a strong sense of responsibility. "But can you really make a lot of money like this?" Instead of answering, I threw a question back. "Do you know Masayoshi Son?" "Who's that?" "He's a Korean Japanese, the chairman of SoftBank in Japan." Taekyu nodded his head. "Ah, is that the balding gentleman?" "That's right. Son Masayoshi is a genius in investments and business. His managerial skills are remarkable, but his foresight into the future is even more exceptional. There's a famous story about that gentleman. Do you know Alibaba? The Chinese online shopping mall? Alibaba is currently the top IT company in China. However, like most companies, it was just an ordinary company in its early days. During that time, the Chinese e-commerce market was largely dominated by the American company eBay, with small companies proliferating. Alibaba was just one of them. When Jack Ma Yun, the founder of Alibaba, heard that SoftBank's chairman Son Masayoshi was visiting Beijing, he immediately rushed to request a meeting. They had a meal and talked for about 2 hours. Son Masayoshi invested $20 million right there. Everyone was skeptical about the investment. Competing with eBay seemed like hitting a rock with an egg. Son Masayoshi even faced severe criticism at a SoftBank board meeting. Nevertheless, he did not waver in his decision. What were the results? 20 years later, Alibaba dominated the Chinese e-commerce market and grew into a global corporation. Meanwhile, eBay could not handle the losses and withdrew from the Chinese market. Afterward, Alibaba was listed on the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE. Its current market capitalization is $330 billion, roughly around 360 trillion Korean won. Taekyu's eyes widened. It's even bigger than Samsung Electronics. That's the scale of a continent. Alibaba occupies a significant portion of the Chinese e-commerce market. It is currently the top IT company in China and ranks among the top 10 in the world by market capitalization. Considering that China's internet users make up about half of the population, the potential for future growth is limitless. The important thing is that SoftBank received a 30% stake from investing $20 million in Alibaba. In terms of return on investment, it's 500,000%. Taekyu was amazed, his mouth hanging open. Wow. That's incredible. That's right. Truly a jackpot beyond imagination, the myth of startup investment. Well, it's a hindsight story. If Alibaba had failed due to competition from eBay, they wouldn't have made a penny. Let's think rationally. Among the numerous startups, only 1 out of 10 companies survives after 5 years. And among those, only 1 out of 10 grows exponentially. In short, the probability of success is less than 1%. But these companies are the ones I discovered with foresight. If the hologram in front of me is correct, they all belong within that 1%. Sun Masayoshi earned 220 billion out of 110 trillion. Can we make any with our 670 billion? Thinking like that, Hyunju walked into the hotel while making a call. After a while, she finished the call and said to me, "I just got a call from Kairos." Kairos. The company Jinhu really wanted to meet. Oh. I selected dozens of startups, but among them, one company stood out especially. That was Kairos. What is it? I just spoke with the COO and set up a meeting. He's coming to Korea tomorrow. Taikyu asked. What kind of company is it? I muttered while recalling the proposal. It's a bit of a complicated place dealing with various things. Masayoshi-san's investment in Alibaba is one of the most remarkable success stories in the tech investment world. In 2000, Sun invested $20 million in Alibaba, a relatively unknown Chinese startup at the time. This investment turned out to be incredibly lucrative, as Alibaba grew into one of the world's largest e-commerce companies. As of September 18, 2024, Alibaba's market capitalization is approximately $203.06 billion. This makes it one of the largest e-commerce companies globally. We expressed our intention to invest in dozens of startups. However, not all of them accepted the proposals. Some found alternative investors, while others were acquired by different companies. Kairos also politely declined our proposal. The reason was that it would be difficult for them to handle the investment amount and style they wanted. If it were another company, we might have withdrawn the proposal at that point. There are plenty of other companies to invest in after all. But with Kairos, I felt a strong desire to meet them. Hyunju, our sister, sent a proposal stating that they have sufficient investment funds and intentions to invest again. Eventually, the COO from there contacted us and a meeting was scheduled. The two who came from Silicon Valley to Incheon were Ryan Gates, the COO of Kairos, and Sergey Yabanovich, the CFO. As indicated by having a COO, Chief Operating Officer, and CFO, Chief Financial Officer, they were on a different scale compared to the startups we had met before. Ryan, who appeared to be in his late 30s, had a tired expression likely from a long flight. His thin face suggested a somewhat sensitive personality. In contrast to the slender Ryan, Sergey was tall with a broad build. Just by appearance he gave off a Russian mafia vibe or perhaps a KGB agent. As soon as Ryan sat down, he asked, "Who is the decision-maker from OTK Company?" Hyunju straightforwardly replied, "I have been delegated full authority. Do I need to get separate approvals?" "No need. My decision is equivalent to OTK Company's decision." Because all the OTK Company's management and shareholders were present in this meeting. He nodded as if things were going well. Then let's get to the point. Kairos currently needs an investment amount of $100 million. Can you do it? Taikyu asked me in a surprised tone. 1 billion won? That much? Up until now we had mostly invested amounts below 10 billion won, with nothing exceeding 20 billion won. But here they were demanding 5 times that amount. $1 billion is equivalent to 110 billion Korean won. It's excessively large as an investment amount for a single company. TL/N. Guys, don't compare the $1 billion equivalent to the Korean won of now, as when the author wrote the number the exchange rate may be different. Hyunju raised her glasses and said, "If you're asking about financial capacity, it is very possible." Ryan and Sergey seemed surprised by her statement. They had come expecting something, but it seemed they hadn't set high hopes. Before that, we would like to hear an explanation about the company. Sure. Sergey connected the laptop he brought to the projector in the meeting room. He then began explaining as the screen lit up. In the past, cars were machines powered by internal combustion engines. However, they are now transitioning into sophisticated electronic products. Industries change with technological advancements. Business models that were promising in the past may suddenly become obsolete. Kodak, once a leader in film cameras, failed as digital cameras took over. Nokia and Motorola, giants in feature phones, missed the smartphone trend and faced a downfall. There are countless such examples. To avoid this fate, one must constantly innovate in technology and adapt to changing environments. We are now in the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where every industry is transforming. The automotive industry will not be an exception. So, how will cars evolve in the future? There are already answers to this question. Currently, the focus in this field lies in two areas: electric cars and autonomous vehicles. While electric cars represent a hardware shift from combustion engines to batteries, autonomous vehicles signify a software shift from human drivers to machines. Autonomous driving is crucial for the cars of the future. That's why numerous automotive and IT companies are diving into its development. 5 years ago from now, the United States' largest e-commerce company AMZ invested 41% of its capital, South Korea's Unsung Motors invested 40%, and Japan's electronics company Hitachi invested 19% to establish a joint venture company. That company was called Keros. They planned to combine their strengths across borders and industries to dominate the self-driving car market. About a year later, Hitachi suffered a setback in the home appliance sector, losing to South Korea's CL Electronics, and faced a management crisis after being defeated by Samsung Electronics in the fiercely competitive smartphone market. In the process of downsizing its business areas, Hitachi sold all of its shares in Keros, with Unsung Motors acquiring 10% of it, surpassing AMZ to become the largest shareholder. However, the year before last, AMZ also gave up on self-driving car development. They deemed further investments meaningless in a situation where competitors were already ahead. Unsung Motors was in a dilemma. The reason for establishing the joint venture was to expect synergy in collaboration with IT companies. However, with those companies withdrawing, what should they do? Han Chan-young, a young man in his mid-30s who rose to the position of executive in a short time by proving his abilities, not because he was an outstanding talent with extraordinary abilities but because he was the eldest son of Unsung Motors Group Chairman Han Minggu. As they say, having capable parents is also a skill. Nevertheless, Han Chan-young decided to take charge of future car development. As a successor who showed interest in leading the group in the future, group-wide support followed. Unsung Motors bought the stake sold by AMZ, increasing its ownership to 86%. In essence, Keros became a subsidiary of Unsung Motors. Despite the huge investment, no significant results were seen, and shareholders began to doubt Han Chan-young's management capabilities. Most of all, it was difficult to find a justification to maintain the investment. To avoid the stigma of business failure, Han Chan-young moved to a successful advanced car development department, and Unsung Motors decided to sell off Keros, which was nothing more than a liability. However, they said that in the past they didn't know, but at this point there was nowhere suitable to sell it. Companies like Apple, Google, automotive companies like Daimler Group, Volkswagen Group, and Toyota Group were already developing autonomous vehicles on their own, and Keros wasn't attractive enough to justify a large acquisition. After several failed attempts to sell, Unsung Motors resorted to their final option. They decided to sell off Keros' various patents and core technologies to recover at least some of the investment funds. If that happened, Keros would be left as an empty shell. Keros executives and employees vehemently protested, but they couldn't stop the parent company's decision. CEO Daryl, while delaying the patent sell-off, personally sought other investors. From Unsung Motors' perspective, it was more beneficial to find an investor willing to pay the fair price rather than selling off at a low value. Keros requested investments from global investment banks, private equity funds, and sovereign wealth funds. Golden Gate also reviewed the proposal but rejected it, determining that it was not profitable relative to the investment amount. The proposal circled back to startups along with other proposals. After hearing the explanation, Taekyu blinked. "What's all this talk about?" Hyunju put down her pen and said, "To sum it up, Unsung Motors currently owns the majority of Keros shares and wants to sell that stake to recover investment funds. $100 million is the amount Unsung Motors demands for the stake sale." Taekyu asked again, "So if we invest $100 million, that money goes into Unsung Motors' pocket?" "That's right. And if we don't invest? Unsung Motors will sell off the patents and core technologies. In that case, the amount they can recoup wouldn't even reach $50 million. At Hyunju's words, the guy seemed puzzled and said, "What? So in the end, Unsung Motors is the only one benefiting from this, right?" "Exactly." Taekyu asked, looking at me. "Did you know about this company?" I nodded. "Of course. I must have read the proposal over 100 times. I could recite it verbatim down to the percentages. Hey, that's not it. Let's talk. Meet me outside first. Before I could respond, Taekyu quickly got up and left the meeting room. Ryan and Sergey, who couldn't understand Korean, looked puzzled by Taekyu's sudden departure. I also stood up. Hyunju spoke to the two of them. I'll have a brief chat with them and be right back. After leaving the meeting room, we gathered in Hyunju's room. It was a suite with a separate bedroom and living room. The table was cluttered with ashtrays full of cigarette butts and scattered documents. With all the OTK company shareholders gathered here, it felt like a shareholders' meeting, somewhat. Except for Ellie, of course. The agenda was about Keros. Taekyu exclaimed excitedly. Are you out of your mind? Why did you agree to meet with that kind of company? Perplexed, I asked. Why are you getting worked up? If anyone's angry, it should be me. Taekyu looked flustered. Well, anyway, they're not suitable. Why would you get involved in something good for Unsung Corporation? I can't stand seeing them succeed. Ellie, who was listening to the conversation, asked Hyunju as she didn't understand why Taekyu was reacting like that. Is there any problem with Unsung Corporation? Asked Jinhoo directly. Her gaze turned towards me. I asked Ellie, do you know what Unsung Corporation does? Of course. It's the largest automobile manufacturer in Korea and ranks 6th in the world. It's not about that. Unsung Group, the second largest in South Korean industry. Unsung Corporation assembles finished cars. Unsung Steel supplies steel. Unsung MD develops and manufactures parts. Unsung RT manufactures railways. Glomus handles logistics. Renoir is an advertising and marketing company, and so on. If you combine the market capitalization of subsidiaries under the Unsung Group, it exceeds 150 trillion. But it doesn't end there. There are many first-, second-, and third-tier subcontractors. While many are not owned by Unsung, they are practically under its umbrella. In short, Unsung Group is a giant manufacturing kingdom centered around Unsung Corporation. It is a global company with production bases worldwide but overwhelmingly dominates the Korean market in sales volume. Its domestic market share is as high as 70%, almost like a monopoly. There may be controversies about preferential treatment for domestic sales, but viewed positively, it is a Korean company to be proud of. However, I sighed and said, they are just bastards. Ellie was startled by the curse that came out of my mouth. What? In conclusion, our house was ruined because of the Unsung Corporation. Chief Executive Officer Ho. The CEO is the highest-ranking executive, responsible for overall management, making major corporate decisions, and being the main point of communication between the board of directors and corporate operations. Chief Financial Officer V. The CFO manages the company's finances, including financial planning, risk management, record-keeping, and financial reporting. Chief Operating Officer O. The COO oversees the company's day-to-day operations and ensures that business operations are efficient and effective. $1 million equals $1 million. $1 billion equals $1,000 million. $1T equals $1,000 billion. At the time of his return, his father's title was the president of DHK Engineering. It may sound convincing, but in reality, it was a small business with about 10 employees manufacturing metal parts. Due to running the business diligently for a long time, they had many clients and were a trusted small to medium-sized enterprise. However, as Chinese companies started pushing in with lower prices, the business began facing difficulties. In the long run, it was clear that competing on price alone wouldn't guarantee success. Father decided to overcome the crisis through technological development. After years of research, he successfully developed an integrated suspension system with excellent durability and performance. It was then that a call came from Unsung Motors. They wanted to use DHK Engineering's product in their new model and had some additional requirements. They asked for a few improvements to be made to suit their specifications and requested equipment expansion to meet the delivery deadline. Securing a supply contract with a large company was a huge opportunity. Not only did it mean substantial profits, but also recognition for quality, allowing for significant business expansion. Father signed the supply contract and started working on the product improvements as requested. However, as they diligently fulfilled the contract terms, a sudden blow came. Unsung Motors unilaterally notified the cancellation of the supply contract, citing the discovery of flaws in their internal quality tests. What followed was even more absurd. Unsung Motors filed a lawsuit declaring the patent invalid. It turned out they had independently developed a similar product and had filed for a separate patent just before. Essentially, they had slightly modified the design of the product developed by the father. Moreover, they were already producing it through a subcontractor run by relatives, even before conducting the quality tests that supposedly found flaws. Unsung Motors never intended to receive supplies from DHK Engineering. They were merely gathering samples under the guise of the supply contract, wanting to monitor the production processes and facilities regularly. From the perspective of a large corporation, this might seem like a common practice, but for the small business being targeted, it was a matter of survival. With the cancellation of the supply contract, the company faced difficulties. The expanded equipment remained as a debt, and the patent developed at a cost of hundreds of millions became invalidated. Father tried everything to save the company by personally seeking new clients. However, no one was willing to do business with a company in dispute with Unsung Motors. The Unsung Group is a giant manufacturing kingdom. Even solid small and medium-sized enterprises, which are essentially subcontractors of conglomerates, have no choice but to be cautious. Even a well-established small and medium-sized enterprise would find it difficult to survive if its funds do not circulate for just a few months. As a result, DHK Engineering went bankrupt and my father collapsed. I said calmly, "That's how my father passed away and our family fell apart." Unlike Taekyu and Hyunju, who knew the situation, Ali must have heard this story for the first time. She looked sympathetic. "When did this happen?" "About 2 years ago." For some reason it felt like a very long time ago. Had so much happened in between that it felt that way? Someone asked me if I blamed Unsung, I would say yes. But resenting a conglomerate is almost futile. I despise Unsung, yet their ads are on TV and Unsung vehicles dominate the streets. Even if you hate Unsung, you can't avoid their products. Taxis are Unsung, buses are Unsung Commercial, and subways and KTX are Unsung RT made. But could I afford to walk instead? At that time I couldn't even afford a car. Ellie seemed puzzled and asked, "If you suffered losses due to unilateral contract termination and technology theft, can't you seek compensation through a lawsuit?" Hyunju chuckled bitterly and said, "Judging by what you're saying, you must be a foreign lawyer." What do you mean?" "It means you know the law well but are clueless about Korea as a foreigner. What are the chances for a small and medium-sized enterprise to win against a conglomerate in a legal battle? Even if they win through all the court levels, how much compensation could they receive? Or would the small and medium-sized enterprises even survive until then? It is not a new thing for large companies to imitate or take away technologies developed by small and medium-sized enterprises with difficulty. However, cases of small and medium-sized enterprises winning against large companies in patent disputes are extremely rare. Although Korea is a country where bullying by large companies is common, Unsung is particularly severe. The reason is that Unsung holds 70% of the domestic automobile market. Even if you combine the sales of other domestic companies and imported cars, it does not even reach half of Unsung's market share. Looking at the entire domestic manufacturing industry, where can you find a sector where a single company holds 70% of the market? In practice, Unsung, which has established a de facto monopoly in the domestic market, has bullied its partner companies in every possible way. Technology theft, pushing down prices, prohibiting supply to competing companies, unilateral contract changes or cancellations, and so on. Yet the partner companies could not say anything because they had no other options. The government, which should play a fair arbitration role, either turned a blind eye or made biased judgments. The automotive industry is a crucial sector of the domestic manufacturing industry. In terms of job creation and exports, it is incomparable to other industries. The government took Unsung's side with the mindset that if Unsung failed, it would be a national loss. Taekyu said, "Isn't that all? They are known for discriminating against domestic sales and treating consumers like fools. It is strange that cars made by Korean companies are cheap abroad but expensive domestically. Cars sold abroad have basic safety features while in Korea they are optional. Warranties are for 10 years abroad but only 5 years in Korea. Abroad, if an issue arises, they immediately recall the product, but in Korea, proper repairs are not carried out. The reason for this is simple: it sells that way in foreign markets and still sells in Korea. Hyunju asked us, "Can I smoke a cigarette?" Although it was her room as she was the only smoker among us non-smokers, she was seeking our consent. We nodded and she lit a cigarette. As it was a smoking room, an ashtray was prepared on the table. Taekyu, who dislikes cigarette smoke, slightly opened the window for ventilation. And I cleared the air in a different way. Let's put aside personal matters and talk only about business for now. What do you think, Nuna? Smoking her cigarette, Hyunju said, setting aside emotional issues, I am against it. It's a company that even Amazon, the largest online retailer in the US, gave up on, and Unsung, the largest domestic car company, is also considering giving up. They have had no earnings so far and they can't even release a product immediately. There's no need to spend $100 million to acquire such a company. Is $100 million an appropriate amount? Compared to the money Unsung Car has spent, it's a cheap deal. Unsung Car has poured $250 million into Keros through several stake purchases. But it's being offered at a price that's not even half of that. But compared to the money Unsung Car can receive, it's expensive. The amount that could be obtained by selling patents and core technology is not even $50 million. However, Unsung Car is demanding twice that amount. How much is left in the investment fund? $120 million. Taekyu asked with astonishment. That's all that's left? Seems like they've spent recklessly on startup shopping. The amount is cutting it close. Though not a shareholder, Ellie was asked for her opinion. She expressed her thoughts. To be honest, I don't understand why Jinhoo chose that company. The investment amount seems too large and the risks are high. There seems to be no vision at the moment. Given Jessica's words, following Itachi, Amazon and Unsung Car's intentions to give up and sell must have valid reasons. I have chosen companies with foresight and Keros is one of them. It's natural for Hyunju and Ellie, who are unaware of this fact, to think this way. However, Taekyu, who knows the truth, shared a similar opinion. I'm totally against it. Investing there is just doing favors for Unsung Car. Besides, it'll be hard to invest in other companies. That makes sense. Let's summarize. If we don't invest, Unsung Car will sell patents and technology to recover the investment, and Keros will essentially dissolve. If we invest, Unsung Car will recover the investment and let go. What should we do? Thinking logically, it's advisable to avoid investing in such a company. However, foresight says otherwise. When reality clashes with foresight, what should be done? If there were overflowing investment funds, there would be fewer worries, but currently the investment funds are at a critical level. There are many good alternatives besides Keros, as Taekyu mentioned. I asked Hyunju Nuna, isn't it better not to go through with this deal? In response, she calmly replied, if you are asking for my opinion. However, my role is to consider the possibilities and advise you. It is your role, Jinhoo, to make the decision after hearing that advice. You are the CEO of OTK Company. No one can make decisions for you. He was right. Making decisions is the CEO's responsibility. Is it right for me to push through with an investment that everyone else opposes? Will it be worth it? After thinking, I said, I should meet the CEO on that side. Upon expressing his intention to meet the CEO in person, Ryan and Sergey showed concern. Hyunju Nuna firmly stated, it's a business worth $100 million. I don't think asking to meet the CEO is an unreasonable request. Ryan immediately called the CEO, and Hyunju Nuna had a brief conversation with him. Eventually, the CEO agreed to fly over and Ryan and Sergey decided to leave first. The next day, we were able to meet Keros' CEO in the meeting room. He was a white man in his late 30s with half-shaved hair and glasses. He was casually dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. Normally, Hyunju Nuna would have taken the lead, but this time I stepped forward first. Nice to meet you in Korea. I'm Jinhoo Kong. I reached out my hand to him. He firmly grasped my hand. Pleasure to meet you, I'm Daryl Segan. It was that moment. After a long time, a hologram appeared before my eyes. Unicorn refers to an unlisted company with a market value of $1 billion marked by a horn. Decacorn is a mythical animal with 10 horns. Compared to the unicorn with 10 times the horns, it represents an unlisted company with a value exceeding $10 billion. $10 billion. I chuckled inwardly. I really chose this one correctly. After the greetings, Daryl sat back comfortably in his chair. As the name suggests, Keros is not just a company developing autonomous driving. When I first heard the name Caros, I thought of a carriage, but the spelling is Caros, not Carso. Was it named ambiguously like this on purpose? For over a century, cars have been powered by internal combustion engines running on petrol. However, this is likely to change in the future. Companies and governments worldwide are already moving to replace internal combustion engine cars. And at this rate, the end of internal combustion engine cars is approaching faster than expected. He then asked a question. So, what do you think the next generation cars will be? I replied, electric vehicles, I suppose. Next generation cars are divided into two: electric vehicles (EV) and fuel cell electric vehicles (FCV). Both types move the motor with electricity, but electric cars operate using electricity stored in batteries, while fuel cell vehicles operate using electricity generated by the reaction between hydrogen and oxygen inside. Electric cars operate with just batteries and motors, without the need for complex engines and transmissions. It's not an exaggeration to say that the structure is so simple that it could be likened to a large RC car. The reason why startups rather than traditional car companies have made a mark in the electric car market is precisely because of this. Until a few years ago, electric and fuel cell cars were in competition. In fact, electric cars have inherent weaknesses. Since they are powered by electricity stored in batteries, they have limited range and long charging times. Simply increasing the battery capacity would make the body heavier and the price higher. Despite having far fewer components than internal combustion cars, the reason electric cars are heavy and expensive is due to this fact. While Hyundai chose to focus on developing fuel cell vehicles, expecting that electric vehicles lacked market competitiveness, it was in fact the victory of electric cars. In the United States, Tesla radically improved the once considered weaknesses of electric cars, such as range and charging time, by building a huge factory in the middle of the desert to lower battery prices. With the support of the Chinese government aiming to solve environmental issues and lead the future car market, BYD from China has risen to become the world's largest electric car company. As the electric car industry grows, government support around the world has also shifted towards electric vehicles. Ultimately, all car companies dived into electric car development, and Unsung Motors, although late in transitioning to electric cars, was already significantly behind in terms of technology. Daryl nodded. The recent cars being released are equipped with various electronic devices: navigation, rear cameras, radio, DMB, air conditioning, seat warmers, black boxes, and so on. It's not just about additional gadgets. In the past, stepping on the accelerator would engage a mechanical device to open the throttle and inject air into the engine, but now an electronic control unit, ECU, handles this process. Daryl gleamed with his eyes. Caros's goal is to develop artificial intelligence for cars that can control everything, including autonomous driving. Although already familiar with the content of the proposal, hearing it directly from the CEO made a significant impact. Artificial intelligence for cars. Hyunju asked a question. Other companies have already commercialized autonomous driving technology. What is the status of Caros's technology? Autonomous driving can be broadly divided into 5 levels: driver assistance, partial autonomy, conditional autonomy, high-level autonomy, and full autonomy. Up to level 3, which is conditional autonomy, the development has been completed and implemented in production cars, while levels 4 and 5 are still under research. However, Caros has not produced any results so far. Daryl smirked. Those are just programs that operate based on predetermined algorithms. They are far from true autonomous driving. What then is true autonomous driving? I asked. Daryl responded as if he had been waiting for my question. It's artificial intelligence that drives like a human, thinking and reacting. It stays within designated lanes, moves according to traffic flow, checks signals before starting, and stops when it detects obstacles. All of these operate according to set rules. The more sophisticated the rules, the lower the chances of malfunctions. In fact, the autonomous vehicles developed by Grubel have passed road tests in major cities multiple times. However, there are instances where traffic police directly control signals at congested intersections. The traffic police signals take priority over traffic lights. But can autonomous vehicles really navigate following the police gestures while ignoring the traffic lights? Can they judge to stop driving upon hearing sirens from behind and automatically clear the way? Can they recognize drunk driving from the wobbling of the car in front and take evasive action? Can they perfectly handle the various other variables that arise during driving? I could understand why Keros hadn't achieved any significant results so far. What Yunsong wanted was the development of algorithms necessary for autonomous driving. He wanted machines to follow or stop according to rules. But Daryl's goal was completely different. He wanted to develop artificial intelligence that thinks like a human and drives a car, not just simple algorithms. So, compared to other companies that steadily advanced autonomous driving through step-by-step upgrades, it might seem that their technological development was slower. The artificial intelligence system we're developing is a perfect operating system that controls all aspects of a vehicle, not only autonomous driving but also providing road guidance, content for passengers, automatic parking, efficient battery management, etc. When Taikyu heard the translation, he looked surprised. Wait, that's completely astonishing. What do you mean? An AI-equipped machine featured in Cyber Formula. When was that animation made? At least it's not for our generation. Those who watched that show would be in their 30s by now, wouldn't they? Thinking like that, Daryl turned his head, pretending to clear his throat. Ahem. Is there something bothering you? You're not thinking of developing AI for cars after watching that anime, are you? Daryl adjusted his expression and said, as you know, we are looking for investors to purchase shares of Unsung Motors. Currently, it is becoming increasingly difficult to continue development under Unsung Motors. Initially, Keros was established as a joint venture. AMZ had a free-spirited atmosphere as an IT company, investing but not interfering in operations. Therefore, Daryl could build his own team and focus on technological development as he wished. However, things changed when AMZ sold its shares and became a subsidiary of Unsung Motors. The biggest issue was Han Chanyoung's presence. He saw autonomous driving development as a stepping stone for his succession. So, rather than developing AI with a long-term vision, he wanted programs that could be immediately utilized. Because their goals were different, clashes were inevitable. Eventually, Han Chanyoung left Keros, leading to its acquisition. I was lost in thought. What if he could create an operating system that controls everything in a car? So humans would no longer need to hold the steering wheel? Cars are essential in modern life. No matter how times change, the importance of cars will remain significant. As it continues to be a growing field, leading global automobile and IT companies are diving into future car development. I imagine the sight of driverless cars cruising the roads. Every car moves along the most efficient route, autonomously seeking out the nearest charging station when low on battery, and stopping at a designated spot when called by the owner. Even if we can easily enjoy lifelike VR experiences or get tastier pizzas delivered faster, the world won't change much. But this is different. If AI that controls cars is developed, its impact will surpass imagination. The only issue is the possibility of success, and I've foreseen success twice already. If we succeed in development, what will be the corporate value? Decacorn is an unlisted company with a market cap of over $10 billion, or 11 trillion Korean won. This is just the minimum amount. Considering the size of the global automotive market, 11 trillion won might not be enough. It could easily be 110 trillion. Suddenly, a strong shiver ran through my body. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If successful, we could achieve more success than all other companies I've invested in combined. I asked Daryl, what's the current ownership structure of Keros? Unsung holds 86%, and I and the developers hold 14%. In Silicon Valley, the value of IT professionals surpasses imagination, with salaries ranging from hundreds of millions to tens of billions of Korean won. Unlike large corporations, smaller companies may offer stock options instead of high salaries. Originally, 7.5% of the total shares were allocated to employees in stock options. When AMZ sold its stake, Daryl and employees collectively purchased an additional 6.5%. Currently, Daryl owns 6.4%, while other employees hold 7.6%. If Yunsung's 86% stake is acquired, all problems will be solved. Taikyu might not immediately do a favor for Unsung. But how will they react when they realize the company they sold for a mere $100 million now holds a value exceeding $10 billion? It doesn't end there. Keros development is the core technology of future cars. If we take the lead in that technology, No car company will be able to escape its influence. Just the fact that Kairos was becoming the next decacorn made it seem like we could see what would happen in the future. I thought of my father who had lost technology to Unsung Motors and passed away. But this time I found myself in a position to take technology from Unsung Motors. Of course, unlike those guys, I'm paying a fair price to acquire it. So there's really no need to feel sorry at all. By the way, I don't intend to pay the price that Unsung Motors is asking. The urgency is on their side, not ours. From Unsung Motors' perspective, rather than selling patents and core technologies at a bargain price, they would prefer to lower the amount but sell everything as is, so there should be room for negotiation. I've left it to Hyunju Nuna so far, but this time I decided to speak up myself. Looking at Daryl, I said, "We will invest in Kairos. Autonomous driving is indeed categorized into different levels, but there are actually 6 levels as defined by the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE. Here's a brief overview. Level 0, no automation. The human driver is responsible for all aspects of driving. The vehicle may have systems that provide warnings or momentary assistance, but they do not control the vehicle. Level 1, driver assistance. The vehicle can assist with either steering or acceleration/deceleration, but not both simultaneously. The human driver must remain engaged and monitor the environment at all times. Level 2, partial automation. The vehicle can control both steering and acceleration/deceleration. However, the human driver must remain attentive and be ready to take control at any moment. Level 3, conditional automation. The vehicle can perform all driving tasks under certain conditions, but the human driver must be available to take over when requested by the system. Level 4, high automation. The vehicle can perform all driving tasks and monitor the environment in specific conditions or environments. Human intervention is not required in these conditions, but the vehicle cannot operate in all environments. Level 5, full automation. The vehicle can perform all driving tasks under all conditions. No human intervention is required at any time. Tesla's current autonomous driving technology, including its full self-driving FSD mode, is classified as level of autonomy. This means that while the vehicle can handle some driving tasks such as steering, acceleration, and braking, the human driver must remain attentive and ready to take control at any moment. Daryl had a puzzled expression at my words. Mr. Kong doesn't have the authority to make investment decisions, right? The decision-making authority belongs to Mr. Kong before me, Hyunju Nuna said. Daryl seemed confused and asked, "Aren't you the representative?" I responded, "Because I am the CEO of OTK Company." Oh. Daryl was surprised, unable to close his mouth. He had always thought of me as an OTK Company employee. Did he ever imagine that a young man looking so inexperienced would be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company? Sometimes even I can't believe it myself. I smiled. I had no intention to deceive. I just wanted to avoid being recognized for now. Daryl nodded in understanding. "I see. Then I will be the only one to know," he said. Until now we had signed investment agreements and immediately paid the investment funds, but this time the situation was a bit different. We needed to negotiate the sale with Unsung Motors rather than directly investing in Kairos. "I'll leave that task to Nuna," I said. Hyunju Nuna nodded. "I'll try to negotiate for the best price." Daryl looked relieved. Avoiding the worst-case scenario of the company being broken up was a big relief for him. We discussed the details further. His biggest concern was about management. Having experienced interference from Unsung Motors before, he wouldn't want a repeat of a similar situation. Before being a CEO, Daryl was a developer. If he had just wanted money, he would have joined another IT company a long time ago. However, he poured even his salary into the company and devoted himself to development. When a startup creates great technology, Korean conglomerates imitate that technology, and American ones acquire that company. Not long ago, Google acquired a startup researching voice recognition systems for $50 million. With only about 5 employees, they paid $10 million per employee. If they were planning to copy the technology, just 1/10 of that amount would have been enough. So, are American conglomerates being kind by doing this? Or is there just excess money floating around? Businesses are groups that strictly pursue profit. Google's decision to invest heavily in acquiring a company is deemed more profitable than simply copying the technology. The core of a company lies not in patents or technology but in people. Technology and products can be replicated, but the philosophy of the person creating them and the culture of the company cannot be copied. Even if OTK company acquires us, there will be no interference in management. It's okay if the results don't come immediately. Just keep developing in the direction you have been thinking. My words delighted Daryl greatly. I will never disappoint you. Lastly, I asked him, what do you think Kairos is doing? Without any hesitation, Daryl replied, make a better future. Additionally, all scheduled meetings that had been arranged were put on hold. Hyunju identified 4 companies with scheduled meetings based on investment amount and industry and invested all the remaining amount except for the $100 million needed for the acquisition of Kairos. At that point I received 2 phone calls. One was from Senior Sanjiup. The startup investment of K company had been finalized. The $700 million in cash had decreased to $670 million. I said I would stop by the office when I returned to Seoul and then ended the call. One of them was an interior design company that took on the construction of Dongtan House. It was a major renovation that involved waterproofing, insulation, and replacing old wiring and plumbing. When I looked at the photos they sent, the interior of the old house, which had been built for over 20 years, had been completely transformed into a brand new home. The exterior remained unchanged, just cleaned up. The next day, as usual, we gathered at a restaurant for breakfast. The work finished earlier than expected, Taekyu said to Hyunju. How about taking a break this time? He suggested. Hyunju shook her head. I have a mountain of tasks waiting for me when I get back. I already booked a flight for tomorrow morning. So soon. It felt quick. I thought we would stay a few more days before heading back. Ellie smiled and suggested, then let's all go have fun today. We haven't gone out together once during our stay here. Taekyu nodded, agreeing with her observation. You're right. Nuna has been cooped up in the hotel the whole time. Hyunja's expression showed reluctance. I have to work. I tried to persuade her, come on, let's go together. When else will all 4 of us have fun together in Korea? The others chimed in similarly and reluctantly. Hyunju nodded. Ellie, looking pleased, asked, where should we go? It doesn't matter as long as it's not the Korean War Memorial, I said. At that, Ellie's eyes sparkled as she said, I know just the place. Can I choose then? I have a place I really want to go to. Sure. Again, as I've said before, anywhere but the Korean War Memorial. Taekyu stopped at the front gate of the hotel. I got in the front seat while Ellie climbed into the back. However, as if her feet were frozen, Hyunju didn't move. What's wrong? Hurry up and get in, Nuna. You want me to get in this? After hesitating for a moment, Nuna shook her head, unable to bring herself to get in. I'll just take a taxi. But Ellie, who was already in the car, grabbed Hyunju and pulled her in. What's the big deal? Come on, let's ride together, Jessica. Wait, Ellie. Click. Ellie quickly shut the door. Let's go. Taekyu drove towards the destination. With her head bowed deeply, Hyunju murmured. Ugh, I never thought I'd end up in this car. I felt embarrassed when I first got in the car. But now I've somewhat adapted. Still a bit awkward. The car quickly arrived at the destination. Getting out of the car, I looked around at the vast circuit in front of me. This place was a driving center created by BMW. I didn't know there was a place like this on Yeongjong Island. I heard it's the first of its kind in Asia. Even though Unsung makes a lot of money in the Korean market, it doesn't invest much in motorsports. But I never expected a German car company to create something like this in the capital region. Before coming here, I had reserved a driving program to experience the circuit firsthand. Ellie asked me, do you like driving? Well, I mean, just as I was about to say that I neither liked nor disliked it, Hyunju Nuna interjected with her arms crossed, saying, Jinhoo has liked driving since he was young. I asked in surprise, me? Don't you remember? You broke my car's side mirror when you were practicing driving in middle school. Oh. Ellie burst out laughing. Wow, that really happened. Hyunju Nuna nodded. It was my first car. It was the first time I got mad at Jinhoo. I got scolded severely. I almost cried. Thinking back on the past, I glared at Taekyu. He avoided my gaze with a guilty expression. It seemed like he felt guilty because he was the one who wrecked Hyunju Nuna's first car, not me. I took the blame since she said she would kill him if she found out it was him. Tell the truth now even if it's late. It's cold. Let's go inside quickly. Taikyu dashed into the building first. Ellie grabbed my arm. Hey, don't break the side mirror today. Since we agreed to keep it a secret, I couldn't say a word. After receiving a brief training from the instructor, we headed to the circuit track. Hyunju and Ellie chose M5, while Taikyu opted for M6 and I went for M4. Taikyu had a confident expression on his face. Hee, it's time to show off my driving skills that I polished while watching anime. Looks like the anime practice paid off. Following the instructor's guidance, we drove around the circuit for about 40 minutes. Surprisingly, Taikyu drove quite well, earning praise from the instructor for having potential. Is learning from anime really effective? Buoyed by confidence, he loudly declared he would challenge drifting next time. Inside the driving center there was a car dealership and service center. The interior felt more like an exhibition or experience center than a sales outlet. Most visitors seemed to come for sightseeing rather than to buy cars. Hyunju and Ellie went upstairs to a restaurant for coffee, while Taikyu and I decided to look at cars on the first floor. Look, they also have Minis here. In addition to BMWs, Minis and Rolls-Royces were on display. They all belonged to the same group of brands. Seeing the cars in front of me, an urge to buy one arose. I should have bought one earlier, but I was too distracted to pay attention. A young male dealer in his early 30s approached us as I showed interest. Take your time to look around, and if you're interested in any model, please let me know. You can even schedule a test drive. I don't even know when I'll be able to buy it. I'm wearing jeans and a parka, while Taikyu is in sweatpants and a hoodie. We probably look like typical college students or unemployed individuals. But the dealer said with a smile, since you're still young, you might become my customer someday, right? I like his mindset. Pointing to the car in front, I asked, how about this car? The dealer kindly explained, the one you're looking at is the 530i model, but usually people prefer the 520D model next to it. It's much more economical. The 4 Series coupe or convertible over here is popular among younger people as well. I examined the appearance of the cars the dealer mentioned and sat in the driver's seat. It's nice, but something feels a bit lacking. However, there was another car that caught my eye. What about this car? This is the recently fully redesigned 7 Series. It's our top-of-the-line luxury sedan and the flagship model of BMW. Sitting inside, I felt the interior was not just spacious but expansive. Taikyu, sitting beside me, asked, isn't this too big? It is, but driving a car like this at my age might make people mistake me for a chauffeur or driving my dad's car. Except for that aspect, I liked everything about the car. It's big, has all the safety features and includes all the options. I asked the dealer, how much is the car? During the current promotion period, it is 139 million won. It's not as expensive as I thought. I thought to myself and was briefly surprised. With startups spending tens or hundreds of billions in the shopping industry, the amount of 100 million feels cheap. How long does it take from contract to delivery? BMWs are entirely produced in Germany and shipped by boat to Korea. Due to the longer time from contract to delivery, the selling company imports a certain quantity first and then sells them to customers. If you opt for special colors or options, individual order, you may have to wait several months, but for standard models there is likely to be stock available. The dealer checked their inventory on a tablet. After checking, black sapphire and spectre gray colors are available for immediate delivery. The car cost 139 million won. Various taxes and insurance will be added on top of this. I sent a total of 1.3 billion won to Korea from foreign OTK account. However, after paying for renting my current place, buying a house in Dongtan, giving some to my mother and paying various taxes, I almost spent it all. Currently, I have less than 100 million won left. The rest of my billions are tied up in OTK company, and all of that has been poured into investments. In short, I'm almost broke now. But I shouldn't worry. I have OTK capital. I said to Taikyu, just lend me 15 million won to buy the car. To which he looked puzzled and asked, what? Why are you borrowing money from me to buy a car? I brought up an old story. Remember when you borrowed 200,000 won from me to buy a gaming console in high school? He looked astounded and said, are you saying 200,000 won is the same as 15 million won? Of course 200,000 won is much smaller. Back then that was my entire fortune. Well, that's true, but the absolute amount is a bit larger, so to him 15 million won is nothing. Let's just swipe your card for now. Kim Do-yeon, a BMW dealer. As a rookie dealer, he classified all customers into two types: those who already drive BMWs and those who will drive BMWs in the future. Though there are dealers who discriminate against customers based on their cars or attire, he was far from being like them. However, having a good mindset and being diligent doesn't immediately translate to results. It had been quite some time since the new year began, but sales performance had not been great, and pressure from above was slowly mounting. Since it was a weekday, the showroom was quiet. Only families and couples who seemed to have come for a leisurely visit were looking at cars. Senior dealer Park Shin-woo sighed and said, "Looks like everyone just came to look around. I need to go have a smoke." Just then, two young men who looked like college students entered the showroom. When Kim Do-yeon moved to greet them, Park Shin-woo stopped him, saying, "Don't bother with those kids. They drove here in some weird sticker-covered compact car. They're just dilly-dallying around." He recalled the game character-decorated compact car he had seen in the parking lot earlier. It seemed those young men had driven that car. "I'll take care of it. It's almost a waste of time since they probably won't buy anything. Just let them look around and leave on their own." Kim Do-yeon chuckled and said, "It's fine. I don't have much else to do anyway." Even though they were just college students now, couldn't they eventually enter society, succeed, and come to buy a car? Kim Do-yeon approached them and guided them through the cars. The young men looked at various models, then seemed to like the 7 Series, inquired about it, and after he kindly provided information on price and availability, one of the young men jokingly asked his bespectacled friend to lend him 15 million won. "I'll pay you back when dividends come in." "When do dividends come in anyway?" "Eventually I'll come out." Watching them playfully tease each other reminded me of when we used to stick together every day until college, drinking and hanging out. But caught up in work and marriage, we haven't talked properly in a while. I wonder how my friend Sangwon is doing. Let's catch up over a drink soon. Lost in thoughts about Sangwon, suddenly a young man presented a card. "I'd like to contract this car." "What?" Until that moment I thought it was a joke. Buying a car is not something you decide on impulsively, especially not a 7 Series costing over 1 billion won. Nevertheless, Kim Do-yeon accepted the card. Although unfamiliar, the card shone in a golden titanium material, not your average card. Unbeknownst to him, it was issued in connection with the Master by Golden Gate, a card seldom seen in Korea. Puzzled on what to do as the young man got out of the car, he asked, "Shouldn't we write a contract?" Kim Do-yeon, collecting himself, replied, "Ah yes. Right. Would you please come this way?" The bespectacled youth spoke, "I would like to pay in full." While filling out the contract, he contacted the card company for payment. Surprisingly, it was approved immediately. Just then Park Shin-woo, done smoking, entered. Seeing the busy Kim Do-yeon, he inquired, "What are you up to?" "I'm currently finalizing a contract with those customers over there." In that place, the young and carefree ones I saw a while ago were sitting. Huh. What car? Would they even buy a 1 Series on installment? A 7 Series. Park Shin-woo was taken aback. What? People who look like they're unemployed buying a 7 Series? Isn't it just a contract signing? Signing a contract is not the end. There are plenty of cases where it gets cancelled before delivery. Kim Do-yeon shook his head. No. The approval just came through from the card company. What a waste. I should have been the one to advise if I knew this would happen. Regrets were already too late. However, there was still more to regret. The bespectacled young man extended the card to Kim Do-yeon again. "While I'm at it, I'll also buy one. Give me that car. If someone saw it, they might think we were buying a 1+1 roll of toilet paper at a mart." Kim Do-yeon, taken aback, quickly accepted the card. "What car are you referring to?" "That flat one with the door that opens upwards." Although various car models were on display in the store, there was only one car with a door that opened upwards. Park Shin-woo saw a BMW with a supercar-like exterior. Could it be the i8? Yes. That's the one. Please include it in the payment together. Kim Do-yeon nodded vigorously. Yes, understood. The achievements of BMW rookie dealer Kim Do-yeon today. 1 7 Series. 1 i8. I asked Taekyu, "Are you changing cars?" "No, I'm not changing. Just going to drive it as a second car." Isn't that supposed to be the main thing? But it seems difficult to personalize that car. Please don't do that. Let me drive it for a bit too. Side by side we diligently filled out the contract. Let's mark it as 150 million won in the ledger. Don't forget to pay. Are you really going to pay it back? Seemed like Taikyu remembered something. Oh. Come to think of it, you still haven't paid back the 100,000 won you borrowed for the date we went on before. Did that really happen? Write it as 150 million 10,000 won. I'll pay it all at once. And... I was about to say it wasn't a date when suddenly, a strong gaze from behind made me turn my head. Hyunju, Nuna and Ellie, who went up to get coffee, were standing there. Since when have they been here? Ellie smiled brightly and said, I see. Jinhoo borrowed 100,000 won for a date. How important was that date that he even borrowed money? Oh no. Taikyu spilled the beans right away. He met a girl named Yuri around the end of the year. Yuri? What a beautiful name. I quickly raised my hand. She's just a junior from school. We met because we had some business to discuss, not a date. But you followed her home. This guy? I tried to stop him from saying more, but it was too late. Ellie, still smiling, spoke up. So Jinhoo went all the way to Yuri's house. It's not like that though. I did my best to explain the situation at that time. After a long conversation, Ellie finally understood. So, Yuri is just a junior and you didn't actually go inside her house, you just took a walk around the apartment complex, right? Exactly. You haven't met since then, right? No. It's probably best not to mention the occasional texts, right? But why do I have to explain it in such detail? Wouldn't it be fine if they just thought we went on a date? So what were you doing? We were in the middle of a car contract. Ellie seemed interested and leaned in closer to me. A faint scent of perfume lingered in the air. Isn't this too close? What car are you buying? A7 series. Isn't the 7 series too big for Jinhoo to drive? I explained why I chose the 7 series and Ellie smiled and gave me a thumbs up. As expected, Jinhoo is a cool guy. Thank you. It's a bit embarrassing to hear such a comment suddenly. Hyunju asked Taejae, what are you doing? And that guy just sold me out. Oh no. I'm helping Jinhoo with buying a car. But why are you signing the contract? Why can't I just confidently say I'm buying the car? Why can't I say that car is mine? After finishing the paperwork, we went outside. The dealer ran out to where the cars were parked. We will arrange for the delivery to the place you specified on the agreed date. Please inspect it. As we got into the car, I asked Ellie, where to now? She answered as if she had been waiting, how about Woolmeadow? I heard Disco Pang Pang is famous there. Hyunju cut in decisively, I'll pass for sure. What are you saying? We should all have fun together when we're out. And off to Woolmeadow we went. When we arrived at Woolmeadow, we all enjoyed the rides, including Disco Pang Pang. As dusk fell, we ate sashimi at a restaurant by the seaside, chatted about various topics and returned late to the hotel. The next morning. Finally, it was the day of departure. We went to Incheon Airport together. Even though it was a weekday, the airport was bustling with people leaving and arriving. Hyunju and Ellie finished the boarding process at the airline counter. They were going back to their original jobs in Hong Kong. Before entering the departure area, we exchanged our final greetings. You both have worked hard. At my words, Ellie squinted her eyes and said, Jinhoo, you've worked hard too. Hyunju said to me, I'll contact you as soon as the Keros negotiation is finalized. Yes. Please take care of it until the end. Taejae waved his hand saying, take care, Nuna. Jinhoo, make sure he doesn't mess around, Hyunju said. I nodded. I will take responsibility and supervise him. He shrugged. I'm not a kid. Ellie reached out her hand towards me. It was fun working together. I grabbed her hand. Me too. Afterward, be sure to come to Hong Kong for a visit. I'll be your guide then. I will. Ellie hesitated, looking at my face as if she had something she wanted to say. At that moment, Hyunju interrupted saying, What's up, Ellie? We need to go in now. Got it. Then see you again next time, Jinhoo. And Taejae too. With that, Hyunju and Ellie entered the departure area. Feeling regretful, I stood there for a while until Taejae said, Is it all over now? Yeah. Let's go back. We got in the car. It's going to be quite a journey from Incheon Airport to home. Taejae drove swiftly on the airport expressway. Thinking about wrapping up our hotel life and going back home gives me a bittersweet feeling. Or is it because only the two of us are left now? I guess we won't gather at the restaurant every morning for breakfast as the four of us anymore. Let's make a quick stop by Senior Sanjiop's place before heading home. Okay. We arrived at a small building on Yeoksamdong's backstreet. I've heard that K Company's office is set up on the 5th floor here, but it's my first time coming here in person. We took the elevator up and walked through a door with no sign. Senior Sanjiop warmly welcomed us. You came straight from Incheon? Yes. In the office that still hadn't been decorated, furniture like desks and computers were hastily brought in first. I looked around and said, for a company with 70 billion won in capital, it's quite simple. Senior Sanjiop smiled and replied, what's the importance of that? Investment companies often set up their offices nicely to inspire trust in potential investors who come to visit. By attracting investment funds and making profits, one becomes a successful entrepreneur. Otherwise, one becomes a fraudster. However, K Company doesn't need investment funds or investors because they have already received investment from the parent company, OTK Company. The interior design somewhat reflects the company atmosphere. There are separate meeting rooms and the CEO's office. There used to be a small publishing company that moved to a bigger place after some major successes. K Company should do the same. Senior Sanjiop laughed in response to my comment and said, I plan to buy a building on Tehran Road in a few years. It might be possible by the year after next. In truth, I could have bought it right away if I had set my mind to it. I just hadn't bought it because I had diverted funds towards investments. Have you had a meal? Not yet. I was waiting to eat with you guys. Taekyu said, shall we order from a Chinese restaurant? Days like this call for black bean noodles. What kind of day is it exactly? Nevertheless, after only having luxurious meals at hotels recently, I miss it. I said to Taekyu, order some jampong and tangsi-yuk too. Slashin. Wolmido is a charming island located just off the coast of Incheon, South Korea. It's known for its crescent moon shape and offers a variety of attractions and activities for visitors.